United, again, failing to impress, if you will. And press being the key word in that statement. Because it was a game of two halves in my mind. I don't know if you watched the game. First half, I thought we looked good against Everton. We weren't in control, but I think it flowed a lot better. Our attacking movement was nicer. Cavani up front, as always, puts in a good shift. And then that second half, and I'm not blaming anyone, and I don't want people to get on me for saying that the second half was different. People came off the bench, the movement dropped off, the pressing dropped off, and we drew. And that's all I'm saying. All I'm saying is that we looked good in the first half, and the second half it was just a bit limited. And I think that I've got a lot of heat this week from one person in particular. As always, good friend of the show, Yaz, gave me a bit of an earful, saying that he didn't think that because of Ronaldo's arrival that United have had to change the way they played in their system. I'd love some of your thoughts first before I go, because I've come prepared today.
Well, firstly, I mean, the amount of rotation in the starting lineup was quite stark, and that pattern continued for a couple of teams over the weekend. Chelsea as well decided to shuffle the pack. So maybe that was a result of the midweek Champions League games. But I did really enjoy the tweet I saw, which was, Donny van de Beek was complaining about not being in the starting 11, so Ollie brought the starting 11 to him and had the entire first team selection warming the bench. And still, Donny van de Beek somehow doesn't get into the starting lineup. We're left with McFred. But Edinson Cavani, I said it before, I'll say it again. The guy is a complete centre forward, and he presents for the ball with his back to goal. He creates options. He does the dirty work. And United look more put together. He's not the individual talent of some of the other guys who may have come off the bench that day, but obviously. But he just does the little things that this team really, really needs. And I think he's being really hard done by at the moment, given the limited minutes he's been able to play. United did look a little bit more put together in that first half, I agree. Jadon Sancho didn't have a good time of things when he came off the bench either. But yeah, there's one glaring inclusion in the second half that leads you to think maybe, just maybe, this team would create more chances with Edinson Cavani playing up front.
And you have to consider, so I went and did my research because I don't want to come in hot and be like, Ronaldo's changed the way that United have played, even though that, I've been a United fan for a long time. I watch them consistently. So who knows? I might just be looking at something completely wrong. But I think the first glaring statistic is Ronaldo, of all the forwards that have played more than 270 minutes, according to The Athletic, has the least amount of presses so far this season. 2.7 pressures per 90 minutes. And at the very top, just for context, is Wilfried Zaha and Neil Maupay, 20 pressures each. Now, that should already say something, right? You're talking about a significant lack of movement, and if you compared that with how Cavani was moving around the pitch in that first half, I saw him everywhere. And there was one point, and if I can be bothered, I'll go and screenshot it just so people don't say that I'm starting up some conspiracy. He was in the box, the defensive box, pressing, winning the ball back and moving it up again. And I look back to last season, and there was this great article, Manchester Evening News, shout out. But they were comparing Cavani and Martial and talking about Martial's lack of movement. And they compared his pressures per 90 with the Frenchman. And Martial, at that point, this was about midway through last season, had almost 9 pressures per 90, with about 3 or 4 of them coming in that final third. Cavani at that time had 15 pressures per 90, with almost 9 of them coming in the final third, which is already miles and miles more than what Cristiano Ronaldo's putting on the pitch. And, I don't want to go off about this the whole show. Nobody was more gassed than me when Ronaldo came back. I loved him. And you know the story when he left, standing in the kitchen, distraught that he went to Madrid. And Yaz stoked that obviously he went to Madrid. But the matter of fact is he's not the same player that he was when he was at Old Trafford the first time. He's not taking the ball out wide, driving with it, He's a player that's just in the box to score goals. And that's why, Ollie left him on against Villarreal, got that 95th minute winner. But my question is how and I'm stumbling because I'm just like frustrated. How successful and sustainable is a model where you rely on arguably the greatest player of all time to score you 95th minute goals every single game? Take over, please.
Well, this is the central dilemma. It's whether you think it's more beneficial to have a clinical finisher or somebody who helps the team create chances. And maybe United create less chances with Ronaldo in the starting lineup, but he's probably going to finish more of them. So that's difficult to quantify, and I don't think we have the sample size to really determine that right this second. We can only really rely on the eye test, which it seems like Cavani is a better option playing in the number 9 role. That doesn't mean that United can't necessarily accommodate both of them. I mean, remember, Ronaldo very rarely played as an out-and-out number 9 at Juventus. They usually had somebody else in that position, and then Ronaldo would play on one of the flanks and be like a Raumdeuter, if you like, just a interpreter of space, just waiting in the gaps, waiting for the ball to drop to him. And that was effective to an extent. So, maybe there are more creative solutions to United's problems. The other, creative solution that I suggested the other week is to the defensive midfield dilemma, where maybe you could sacrifice one of McTominay or Fred, play Pogba in there, and then leave Aaron Wan-Bissaka back as an extra defender instead of... Because you really just need 3 players to stay around the halfway line to prevent counterattacks. The other problem I saw in the Everton game was Luke Shaw not getting up the pitch enough, not overlapping in the second half. He seems to get fatigued quite easily, and beyond the sort of 60, 70 minute mark, he doesn't make as many overlapping runs forward as he probably should. And so should Alex Telles be coming off the bench more often to renew that flank so that you do get a little bit more forward thrust on the left-hand side. I saw Jadon Sancho really struggling being double-teamed when he receives the ball by both winger and fullback. And at Dortmund, that would never happen because Rafael Guerreiro or Achraf Hakimi at the time on the other flank would be overlapping or underlapping to draw a defender away from him, and then he'd be able to go to work. So there are a number of little issues all over the field that add up to a big, big problem. It's not just Ronaldo.
Yeah, and so just so we're clear, we're not hating on Ronaldo. Please don't message me and get upset. It's just numbers. And obviously, like we've said multiple times in the show, numbers don't always tell a full story. But to say that his arrival does not change the way that United plays, I think is a bit of a false claim.
Yeah, it changes everything because the whole collective becomes about getting the ball to him to score a goal. And that's a predictable strategy. And teams can more easily defend that than defend the multiple array of attacking options that United had at their disposal when, Martial and Rashford and Greenwood, for example, were making up a totally interchangeable front three. It's not to say that any of those players are individually better than Ronaldo. Of course they're not. But maybe they're more versatile.